this computer. Because if I don't record, then it's not going to be there for you to watch later. So we have to, I have to remember to record. I have a paper that says remember to record. But you know, we're human. Sometimes we make blunders. I will tell y'all that my boss has asked me to go to an aging advisory meeting on October the 18th. That's in 3 weeks. It's the 3rd Tuesday in October. So we won't have class that day. I'll just add another one to the end. So there will be 16 classes, but I'll have to cancel that day for her, to go to her meeting. So that's October the 18th. And I'm making myself a note to email Alexi about 10/18, and maybe she knows how to do Claris to send a reminder or something along those lines. But anyway, there that is. I know I don't try to cancel class. I always try to rearrange anything I can to not have to cancel class. It just happens sometimes. And if your boss asks you to do something, you do it, right? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. We may have Gwen join us. And if we do, then that's great. We'll just go ahead and start. We'll start by opening and closing our hand. Oh, there she is. I won't say speak of the devil because that's not nice.
No.
Because Gwen is way nice. All right, we got you, Gwen. Good morning. All right, so we just getting started, getting our bodies warmed up and ready for some movement, because as we know, we don't like to do movement with cold muscles. It can increase our chance of injury. Some people do different things to warm up. I like just a good, nice walk, quick walk around. When I warm up for my workouts, I get on the treadmill or on the elliptical. But for the sake of space and for Tai Chi, I kind of walk up and down, walking forward and backwards. If I were in a classroom, I'd kind of walk around the room. But for the sake of the camera, it's just, I try to stay within that camera. But opening and closing my hands and just pumping my arms, trying to limit too much back and forth. It kind of makes me dizzy in the head. I'll move this chair. We're not going to do the chair stuff. Maybe it won't be in the way. All right, so let's get our bodies in the right way, thinking about body awareness, our feet about shoulder width apart, supporting our weight on both legs, also having that good posture, like that string that pulls up towards the ceiling, but also pulls down towards the floor. So that's that good posture. Relaxed shoulders, not holding any tension anywhere, good supportive stance, and I won't say most importantly, but we've got to breathe. So we want to be breathing throughout our exercises. So let's start with our warm-ups for our neck. We bring our hands up towards our chin and chest, push away from our bodies and follow those hands all the way down, chin towards our chest. Feel a little stretch in the back of our neck. Throughout our movements, just do a check with yourself to make sure you're not holding your breath. Do one more. Our other neck exercise starts out that same way. Drop hand to our hip, follow the other towards that as we look towards that shoulder, back to the front, switch hands. Just feel that slight stretch. You don't have to go as far as you can. Just enough to work that neck help make it more flexible. The more we do these type of exercise, the more mobile we are. Definitely more safer drivers because we can see what's going on left to right. Any traffic coming, can we make that turn? This is probably the place I have the most stiffness, so I could sit here and do this for a long time, just letting those muscles loosen up. That's good to recognize maybe where you hold the most stiffness and where you might need to spend a little bit more time. Now for our shoulders, let's roll those shoulders forward and back. This right here helps fix your posture. So if you ever feel out of sorts, just roll those shoulders back and you can feel it get right back in that right spot. That's why it feels so awkward to roll forward, because we know we're supposed to have our shoulders back when we're having that good posture. But nonetheless, we roll our shoulders forward and back to warm up those shoulder muscles. Now let's do some circles with our hands, up and down. Practicing breath as we inhale, come up, and exhale, come down. Also a good way to think about gentle resistance. Maybe we think about the density of the air. The air is nice and thick and we're having to push and pull through it. That's one of our principles of Tai Chi, is gentle resistance. Let's grab our ball and separate the heavens and the earth as we stretch our spine, pushing up and down at the same time. Come back to our ball and switch. Stretch that spine, back to our ball and switch. Let's do one more on each side. My back is usually a place that carries a lot of sore muscles. So this stretch right here just feels so good to me. I like to think of it as that good morning stretch, because you do that right when you get out of bed. You just stretch that back and it's just like, oh, good morning. Let's get ready for the day. That's that nice stretch for the morning. Now let's take our ball from side to side, stretching and warming up our spine horizontally. Remind yourself to breathe. If you're catch yourself holding your breath, it often happens when we get busy doing something new or different or out of our routine. Staying within our frame. Back to the middle. And now we're going to start with our lower body exercises. Remember, these are the ones that are more challenging for us because these are our weight-bearing joints. So those first exercises we can easily do seated. If we have issues with endurance, maybe we get tired standing throughout the movement. But these two, the hips, the two for the hips and the two for the knees, I encourage you to try standing, even if you use a chair or a table, something that helps you stabilize. The first exercise we do for our hips is shift our weight to one leg, heel forward, hands back, pause in the middle, and toe back. Back to the side like a kickstand with our hands forward. Come back to center, shift the weight, and switch legs. Heel forward, hands back, pause in the middle, and toe back, hands forward. Switch legs, heel forward, hands back, pause, and toe back, hands forward. Back to center, shift, heel forward, hands back. Let's do another one on each side. Shift. Take your time, let that stabilizer leg wiggle a little bit, and if it's having a problem finding balance, just take your time with it. Move your heel forward whenever you're ready. Skip the hand movements and hold on to something if you need to. There you go. The main important thing for that movement is what's going on with your lower body. Your hand, your arm movements, that's a counterbalance. And it also has that Tai Chi, just nature to it. Here, just the flow of that movement, that slow, smooth, and continuous. It just adds to the leg movement. But if you need to nix the hand movements and hold on to something while you move that leg, that is what's most important. Next, we're going to shift the weight from side to side. Our hands are stacked, staying in our frame, going in the direction of the weight shift. When we get here, we tap that toe a little out to the side and back in. Shift the weight and tap. Bring it back, shift. Notice my body's upright. We're not leaning with the movement. Shift, tap, back, shift, tap. Take your time. Let those stabilizer muscles be challenged as you go side to side. When we challenge our muscles, that's how they grow. That's how they get stronger. But just like anything, we want to challenge it within our comfort zone. So if you find that if you're shifting the weight and you feel a sharp pain in your knee or anywhere in your leg, then just lay off of that a little bit. Choose not to then lift your foot to the side. Give what weight you can to that leg without pain. Skip the arm movements. Hold on to your chair. Listen to your body. You know, anytime your body has a sharp pain, lay off and back up a little bit and do what's something more in your comfort zone. So that's always that lesson. Sometimes I get a little twinge in my knee and I think, you know what? I'm just going to keep that foot on the floor. I'm not going to tap it back out today. But by shifting your weight side to side, you are engaging stabilizer muscles that really are in your hips, your knees, your ankles, and in your feet. You're engaging all of those muscles by giving all your weight to one leg. Next is for our knees. We have our loose fist, shift, lift, tap, and punch with that opposite hand. Bring it back, shift, lift, tap and punch. Bring it back, shift, lift, tap and punch. Bring it back, shift, lift, tap and punch. Remember, you're in control of how high you tap that foot out. I'm keeping mine low. Shift, lift, tap and punch. Now the other exercise for our knee. Shift, step out, heel toe. Shift weight to that front foot, keeping the back foot flat on the ground. Shift it back, feet side by side. Shift, step, heel toe. Shift and punch. Bring it back, side by side. Shift, step, shift and punch. bring it back side by side. Continue to breathe. I just caught myself holding my breath. Has a little bit something to do with me talking, but just remind yourself, because this right here is challenging. So sometimes we'll hold our breath when we're challenged and think, oh, we'll just breathe later. Let me just get through this. We might not be thinking it, but that's what's going on. We're trying to challenge ourselves and we're forgetting to breathe. Just remind yourself, take that deep breath and keep breathing. But you see all this shifting right here is so good in strengthening those stabilizer muscles. It prepares us for the movements that we do in our Tai Chi series of movements because we do that weight shifting. All right, next is for our ankles. We shift the weight, heel, toe, rocking that foot, heel, toe, working on the mobility and flexibility of that ankle joint. Bring that foot back, shift the weight, heel, toe, heel, toe. Bring it back, shift. Now big toe, little toe. So we're going side to side. That one's a little bit more awkward of a movement, but nonetheless important for the flexibility of our ankle. Shift, little toe, big toe. So when we have mobile and flexible joints, then we're more easily recovering from a little off balance. I can recover easier when my joints are a little more movable. So that's why it's so important to keep those muscles warm, those joints flexible, and we do that with those warm-ups. All right, so those are our warm-ups. Any questions about those? It's the same ones we do every time, but sometime I might say something different or confusing. If you ever have a question, just pop in and ask it. And don't ever think, oh gosh, I should know that, so I'm embarrassed to ask. Because sometimes we need things explained differently and it sticks with us. So always ask, it's no problem. So let's talk about basic 6 Tai Chi movements. So we have our commencement and our open and close. Those are our first 2 movements. So whenever we do commencement, it's a step forward that's led by a left foot step, shift, and bringing that right foot forward. That's the footwork of commencement. The handwork, hands facing each other the whole time. We start at our sides, we bring our hands up facing each other, and we're out with that soft bend in our arm. We come down towards our hips, up our body, out, and back in. So that's the handwork. We have one of our principles, weight transfer, where we shift right, step left heel toe, shift left, bring the right foot forward. We have our principle of slow, smooth, and continuous as we come up and immediately come down and immediately come in. So there's that continuous movement as we move our hands in commencement. But I was reading in our handbook, and you may have never seen this handbook, but you have things from this handbook because that's what I've made copies of for y'all. So yours may look like this. That's what handouts I copied and sent to y'all is from this book. Well, I may be able to do it this afternoon, but there's a section in here. And if you want it, let me know. If you don't, either which way, let me know if you want it or not. But in the back, it talks about principles and it talks specifically about falls prevention in terms of our Tai Chi movements. And so I was reading about this specifically about falls prevention, since October has our first day of fall. And in October, we talk about falls prevention. Now, I talk about it all the time, but this is a specific month dedicated to falls prevention. So I was reading in here about it. And so it talked about our movements and how we can focus on different principles with the different movements in our basic six. And so when I was thinking about commencement, I think about weight transfer, because we shift right, there's the weight transfer, we step left, shift the weight, there's the weight transfer, and then bring that foot forward. So I always thought of it as about weight transfer. And then, like I just told y'all, I thought about slow, smooth, continuous as I brought those hands up and down, forward and back through the movement of commencement. That's not wrong. But in the handbook, it talked about the first two movements of the basic six are about breath. And so I thought, I was focused on different principles, so let's try it thinking about breath. Now, whenever I bring my hands up, that's when I inhale. So I inhale up, and about when I bring my hands up, I'm ready to exhale. So I exhale down. And I'm ready to inhale again. So the commencement movement for me is 2 breaths. It's a completely fill my lungs with air and completely exhale my lungs with air. It's 2 breaths for me, but all of our lungs are different. So you may breathe faster. You may need to breathe slower. It's whatever is most comfortable for you, but I'm just giving you one example of my movement. So hopefully I breathe in a rather dramatic way so you can hear it. Let me get closer to the computer. But I inhale and exhale twice. That works for me. You may slow or speed up your hand movements to match your breath to make it those 2 breaths. That's easier to do when you're doing Tai Chi by yourself. When we do it together, we tend to do it all at the same pace. But that's thinking about breath. It's those 2 breaths as we go through that hand movement. And of course, I've always said with open and close, it is a breath. So when I hold my hands here and inhale and exhale, my hands opened and closed with the breath. Right now, I'm opening and closing my hands. I am physically making my hands open and close, but here I'm just holding my hands out here. And when I inhale and exhale, my hands opened and closed with the breath. And that's the intention of open and close, is for it to be a breath. Now, is there another principle we can think about when we do open and close? Yes, we can think about gentle resistance in that accordion. Pull in that accordion and push in that accordion. So that has more movement control of you versus a breath. So see, you can take that same movement and think about it in a different way, whether it be movement control with slow, smooth, continuous, gentle resistance, whether it be about weight transfer, or whether it be about breath. And that's the lesson I want you to remember, is that that's the beauty of our Tai Chi, and that's why this never gets old, because we can do it the same movements, have a different focus, and get different things out of the same thing. So that's why I love Tai Chi, is because it's just so flexible, even having 6 movements. So let's go over, and you can choose however you want to go through commencement and open and close, which principle you would like to focus on. But let's do those 2 movements. And commence. Open and close. So our next movement is single whip. And in our handbook, it talks about single whip in terms of weight transference. So yes, we do weight transference. We shift left, we step right, adjust the weight to where now there's weight on both legs. Then we push, turn, separate, following that left hand. Then shift back to that left foot. Bring those hands down to get ready for waving hands and clouds. So weight transference, definitely something that's happening with our with our body structure in single whip. So let's do that again. We have shift left, step right, adjust the weight, push, turn, separate, following that left hand, shift, and bring that foot back, ready for waving hands and clouds. All right, let's put the 3 together. Starting from the top, commencement, and commence up, down. Open and close. Single whip. So those are our first 3 movements. Next is waving hands and clouds. And in the handbook, okay, let me back up. When I think about waving hands and clouds, I think about weight transfer, especially in our principles, because what do? We step, shift, follow step, shift, step, shift, follow step. We're transferring weight as we walk sideways. You know, that's the principle I always thought of. I always thought about upright posture here, because when we start moving places, we may have a tendency to lean with the weight shift, but we have to remind ourselves to keep that upright posture as we do step and transfer weight. So those were the 2 principles. I was more thinking about body structure whenever I was doing those movements. But what the handbook talked about is spatial awareness. Now, that's not something I talk a whole lot about, but spatial awareness is definitely fitting in our principles, in that, number 1, we're aware of our environment. We're aware of the space that we are in. So anytime I walk into a place, I do a quick observation of the floor, because I want to see if there's anything in the floor. Is there anything that I can trip over? Is there anything that I could step on that is sharp? You know, I always think about Legos. If you ever go to a house that has children, that is very important, to scan the floor for things that you may trip over. you know, in your own home, as long as no one has been there, you generally know what's where. You can walk through your house in the dark and without a problem because you know it's like by heart, you know where everything is. But if somebody's ever in your house messing with things, then you have to do that quick scan of what's there. Whenever I do this class, I'm not going, well, sometimes I've made the mistake, but I'm not going to intentionally start waving hands and clouds here when there's a wall right here, because I'm fixing to run into the wall. That's why I scoot over here by this table. When I'm going to do waving hands and clouds, then I have space to do waving hands and clouds. So that's one thing about spatial awareness. But another thing about spatial awareness is how much space am I taking up when I move? So here I step out for waving hands and clouds. Then I've opened up my stance to a very stable distance of my feet being a proper distance. If I were to step way out here, then that's entirely too far, and I'm going to have to really kick myself up to be able to recover from that space. So spatial awareness is also about the distance of your steps, the placement of your foot. How much space am I using? How much space do I go when I move? We want to be spatially aware. So I can think, I can step and know that that's in a stable place without looking at my feet or without looking at my camera. All right, so I'm looking at my wall now. I'm not looking at myself. I know when I stepped out here that I'm in a problem without even seeing where my feet are. I feel that. I know if I step here, I'm not in a problem. I'm in a good, safe distance, a stable distance of my feet. That's being spatially aware without looking. It's a feeling that you get. And so that's why I say we're all different, and our steps aren't going to be the perfectly same measurement. You know, here I might have 18 inches, but you might step out and yours may be 12 inches, and that's right for you. So you being spatially aware of your steps to know you're still in a stable position. I know if I pull that foot in right next to the other foot, I feel it, that my body's like uncertain if we're good. I'm spatially aware of my steps. And so that is what the handbook referred to when it talked about waving hands and clouds. So that's why I say practice walking sideways so that you know that distance that feels right to you. And that's what it means when it says spatial awareness. So I talk about it, but I just haven't really used those words, spatial awareness. So I'm even learning things and diving more into what we do than even after doing it for so many years. I'm still learning. Again, why I love Tai Chi so much is because I can always learn something new in a different way. So there's that spatial awareness movement of waving hands and clouds. If you see my hands doing like this, you know, whenever you're a kid and you do like, what do you call it? Like patty cake or something with your friends. You know what I'm talking about? Where you go. And there's usually like a little song that goes with it. I remember my daddy doing like, Miss Susie had a steamboat. The steamboat went to, okay, you know that one? Okay, well, if you see my hands doing something like that, what I'm actually doing is when my hand goes down, that's when I'm shifting the weight to that leg. When my hand goes up, that's when I'm releasing the weight from that leg. So here, here, here. So that's just a visual of weight shifting. So if you're wondering, you may not even notice, but this is what I'll do whenever I'm not doing hand movements, but to show weight shift. Shift the weight down, bring the weight up. Shift the weight down, bring the weight up. That's another way to practice waving hands in clouds without the actual waving hands in clouds movement. Really think about that weight shift. Pushing, like a push and pull. Push, release, push. And it's fluid just like that. As soon as you release the weight, then you give it weight. Like my hands cut off. But that's what I was doing with my hands. So now let's go through the hand movement of waving hands in clouds. That chair was bothering me, even if it wasn't in my way. So the hand movement of waving hands in clouds is much like our ball that we do in our warm-ups. Shifting side to side, just like this. To the side, it's a torso movement. The hands are just going along for the ride, except in Tai Chi, waving hands in clouds, sorry, it's all Tai Chi. We have one hand up and the hand down by our hips as we go to the side. So we go towards the direction of the hand that's up, then we switch and go to the side to side, moving that torso. So just like our ball in the warm-up, the hand that's on top is the direction that we turn our torso. Here, waving hands in clouds is the same way. Hand that's on top, that's the direction of our body movement. Switch, now go to the other side. That's the hand movement of waving hands in clouds. Putting it with our step, when we step right, we wave to the right. When we step left, we wave to the left or turn to the left. So we step right, turn right, step left, turn left. Step right, turn right, step left, turn left. So you see the rhythm of that: step right, turn right, step left, turn left. Now in the middle of that is something else is happening. We're shifting weight, because remember, we cannot step with a foot. We cannot move a foot unless we've taken all the weight off of it. So when I step left, I cannot move this right foot until I take all the weight off of it. So I give all the weight to the left foot to be able to step with the right. Now I give all the weight to the right foot so I can step to the left. Give all the weight, step. Give all the weight, step. I think about, you know those, oh shoot, what are they called? Hourglasses. How it has the sand and you flip it over and all the sand goes in that one side and then you flip it over. That's what I think about with shifting weight as we walk in waving hands in clouds, because I step, then I give all the sand to it. Then I step and then give all the sand to it. Step, sand, step, sand, step, sand. That's how I think about waving hands in clouds and shifting weight, is the hourglass. I really come up with a lot of different hand movements with waving hands in clouds. Can y'all tell I think about this a lot? I really think about different ways and we do these movements, and how it can be easier to teach or easier to understand as we, have something else to relate it to. But waving hands and clouds, yes, we're doing something to be able to step. We're doing something to be able to step. So that's happening whenever I say step right, wave right. There's the weight shift. That's happening. Step left, wave left. Step right, wave right. So something else is happening with our hands, and that is the switch. So we talked about the turn, switch. So I can't go back to the left until I put my left hand up. So I have to switch, then turn, switch, then turn. So even though I was talking about step right, wave right, or turn right, step left, turn left, there's still the weight shift and the change of the hands. It's just a matter of how you think about it that helps you remember how to do it right. Now, some people like the 4 different words where you step, switch, turn, shift, step, switch, turn. So there's the 4-word method. And then other people like doubling up the movement and the words. So step and switch, shift and turn. 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 However, it helps you to remember what you're supposed to do. And the more practice that you do, then one day you'll be going like this. And you're not even thinking about shift, switch, turn, or step. You're not even thinking those words anymore because you've practiced so many times that your body can just do it without thinking. That's what practice gives you. So that's why I encourage practice. There was a time I couldn't sit here and talk about anything and do that movement, but practice. All right, so I really feel like I harp on waving hands and clouds a lot, that I really talk more about that movement, that I spend a lot of time on it, and it's because of the principles of slow, smooth, continuous, and weight transfer and upright posture that really help with balance and strength and endurance of your body, and that will help with falls prevention. So if you don't do all the movements together, spend time just doing waving hands and clouds, focusing on upright posture, focusing on weight transference, thinking about spatial awareness. Slow, smooth, and continuous is Tai Chi. And that's when magic really starts happening, where you have better balance. And that's one of the reasons why Tai Chi is proven to help with balance, with falls prevention, is because that move right there is so big time. But let's put it all together. There's something about doing it all together that helps bring out the internal principles of mental quietness and breath as we move through them. And that's usually if I'll just be quiet. We can't have mental quietness with a blabbermouth. So let's go through those movements and I'll call out the names. Here we go from the top, and commence. Open and close. Single whip. Waving hands and clouds. To the middle for open and close. Single whip to the other side. Waving hands and clouds. Open and close. And close it out. So how did you feel about doing waving hands and clouds and single whip to that other side? Was that no big deal to you?
I had to think better.
It makes you think, doesn't it? When I first went to training and they taught us to one side, this was in our advanced movements, but still, they just taught it to one side and then, oh, you just do everything to the other side. You just do it opposite. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, it took me a long time to get comfortable doing it to the other side. But it's just the same movements. Practice, right? Practice. So let's go over that movement. We're just going to go through it several times. Okay, here we go. And commence. Open and close. Single whip. Waving hands and clouds. Open and close. Single whip. Waving hands and clouds. Open and close. And close it out. Oh, very good. So each time it'll get easier and easier. But let's go back and just go over that second single whip and waving hands and clouds. So I know because of my space, I need to move over towards this door. Maybe not quite that close. But we're coming from open and close after that first waving hands and clouds. We're going to shift our weight to our right foot, step left. Again, push our hands out, turn, separate, this time following that right hand. Shift right, bring that left foot back, ready for waving hands and clouds. So I step left, turn left, step, turn, step, turn, step, turn, step, turn, step, turn to the middle for open and close. Close it out. So to bring something else to your attention is that final turn on waving hands and clouds. So on that final turn, you want, well, your hand is here. You want to go all the way, then come to center for open and close. And so I think of that like a magnet. First of all, I want to complete that turn. So even though I know after that final turn in waving hands and clouds, even though I know that my last or next move is open and close, I don't want to stop in the middle and then do open and close. I want to make sure I go that full turn and then come to the middle for open and close. So don't cheat yourself any part of the movement as you take the final turn, go the full turn, and then I always bring my hand up and, like I said, like a magnet, pull it to center for open and close. And I do that whenever we wave hands and clouds this way. I take that final turn and come back, open and close. So don't cheat yourself on that final one. Now, we know that waving hands and clouds, the step, shift, follow step, we know that it's 3 steps. So that was 1 step, shift, follow step, that's 2. And then here's our final one, step, shift, follow step. That's our 3rd step. Now, if you're practicing by yourself, then you might think, oh gosh, was that 3 or was that only 2? Don't let that stress you. If you do 4, if you do 5, you realize you've done several. If you're in a small space, you've probably got to a wall. But if you do more than those 3, the Tai Chi police will not come and arrest you. It's okay. Don't stress about that. Technically, there are 3 steps, but if you do 4, it's okay. Okay, so don't stress about that, but the number is 3. And 1 step includes a step, shift, follow step. That's 1. You may think of it as 6 if that's helpful. If you think of it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that may be helpful to you. But it's 3 steps, which includes a step and a follow step. All right, any questions about Tai Chi Basic 6?
Yeah.
We just practice, right? All right, let's cool down by giving ourselves a nice little fist massage, breaking up any lactic acid. Just know anytime you spend a lot of time doing weight shifting, you're gonna be a little sore. So just be prepared for that. This can help with soreness. Hopefully you won't have pain, but sometimes you may have a little pain in your knee or hips because those are our major weight-bearing joints. That's always a good time to use your ice pack when you're having a little pain. But more than anything, when you get a little stiff and a little sore, my best thing that I do is just get up and move some more. Just get those muscles warmed back up again. All right, next thing we do is tense or gather and then relax. So we gather and release. Sometimes we don't realize we're holding tension until we let it go and we go, oh wow, I was really holding tension in those shoulders. And relax. 1 more, gather and relax. Big circle. Inhale and exhale. One more. And then we make a fist with our right hand. That represents our strength. Our fingers together with our left hand represents our friendship. Our thumb in represents our humility. So strength, friendship, and humility. And we put those together, and in mutual respect, we say namaste. So thank y'all for joining me today. Just as a reminder, Miss Gwen, I know you weren't on when I said this, and I'll remind you again, but October 18th, my boss has asked me to go to an aging advisory meeting, so I won't have class that day, but I'll add another one to the end. So there will be 16 classes, but we won't have class October 18th.
I'll put it on my calendar.
Okay. But thank y'all so much. I love y'all. I hope you have a wonderful week. Let me know if you need anything, okay?
May I get those printouts that you were talking about from the Tai Chi book, please?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Okay.
I want it too.
Okay. I will send that to y'all. Betty, Gwen, and Legenia.
Yeah.
And it just helps us learn it in a different way. And I just like to learn more about it so it can help me.
I love the
Great class.
I love Tai Chi, and so I want to share it in all the ways and help others love it too.
Okay.
All right. I'll see y'all next Tuesday.
Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay.